Peace, everyone. We're getting into the collective daily energy reading. The first card that came out was the King of Cups. To me, this is a man in your energetic field, your divine masculine, that is holding space for you. This is a man that is wise in business. Okay. This is a man that knows how to actually retain the water. Okay, and be in the flow and allow business to actually manifest and come to the forefront. So, for the King of Cups to be here, I feel like there is a lot of work that still needs to be done on the divine feminine, the collective divine feminine, to actually believe in her dreams, in her hopes. And so he's going to be in your field, right? Allowing manifestations and things to come to the forefront. I do feel like this is a lot of hidden energy. I do feel like the divine feminine ultimately is giving a lot of antsy energy at this point. And when I say antsy, it's more so looking to when things are going to change. I think what's coming up is like a control factor, right? We've had a control factor for so long because we've been the ones at the driver's seats of our lives, or it looked that way, so to speak, right? And there's been a lot of wounding in what we've experienced in in this lifetime. This is specifically, I feel like, for the divine feminine. There's a divine feminine and divine masculine energy in this reading. Underneath the King of Cups is mother wounds. To me, this is speaking not necessarily directly to just mother wounds. This is speaking to family wounding, right? Things in the bloodline that ultimately needed to be addressed. In this, the even though we are in a time where timelines are being reoriented to people are being reoriented to the correct timelines, there's still more healing and work that needs to be done because of the limiting beliefs, the damage, the trauma that the divine feminine endured in her experience, okay, in this lifetime. And these aren't necessarily wounds that go away overnight. There is an aspect of forgiveness, okay, that takes place in all of this. And I'm going to continue, but this is the short. If you want to tap into the full length, go to my YouTube channel. There's an aspect of forgiveness that the divine feminine has granted to the bloodline, but that wounding to the inner child of really believing that her dreams are possible. That's, to me, is deeper um, than the wounding that has taken place from just a conscious level. And in this respect, the divine feminine is still working on how to show up for herself and believe that she can be her authentic self. She can be her quirky, creative self and still be embraced. And that the world wants to see this version of her. And so you have this beautiful King of Cups. Sorry, I was looking at the cards. You have this beautiful King of Cups, and he's there holding space, allowing himself to be there with the divine feminine as she lets go of these limiting self beliefs in whatever time it takes her, but understanding that life still has to move on. So he's providing assistance in the way that he can. He's showing up in the best way that he knows how, and the best way that he knows how is operating out of his divine masculine energy, okay, and his manifestation abilities. And I do feel like this is something that is speaking of actually coming to the forefront even more, okay. Um, the next card that came out was the Page of Pentacles, okay. And with the Page of Pentacles, to me, this is speaking to like study. This is speaking to whatever you want to ultimately do in this lifetime. Pay attention to it. Anything that you pay attention to grows. And I feel like this is an aspect of us, the divine feminine, that's willing to show up for the occasion. But we have to be mindful because this card, Watch Where Your Mind Goes, from Rainwater Readings Oracle deck, speaks to the fact that in connection with the Page of Pentacles speaks to the fact that yes, we want something new, and that's where our focus wants to be. But there's still the things of the past that are pulling on us, and we're looking at the water, so to speak, as it's not a water that you find in an island, and it's a crystal clear. It looks it looks like there's a storm brewing. The water looks violent and uncertain. And just because we're not able to see what comes next does not mean that the worst is expecting us. And I have to say that because I've also been dealing with these feelings on conscious levels. And I asked for guidance last night, and Spirit gave it to me. There are things and there's certain deep woundings that we have to realize it's okay to let go of, and to realize that we're not going to repeat those same mistakes or those same patterns when we've learned a lesson so deep for some that your soul will never forget. And in that, I feel like there's a guard up of not wanting to hurt, themselves again in that way, or even hurt others, right? I don't want to say hurt others, put others in harm's way, right? Because there were certain decisions or behaviors that were done in a state of ignorance, or maybe not full awareness. We could say it that way, and it made things harder than it needed to be. So the Page of Pentacles is telling me to focus on something else. Focus on what you actively want to bring forth into your life. There's no reason to go into another direction when this path, whether you realize it or not, has been worked on behind the scenes. And the reasons why it's hidden from you is to keep it protected. It's so that your enemies can't come in and try to block it or destroy that path. Now, mind you, they are being reoriented to where they belong, and so are you. But you don't want to give anyone any information, opposition, any information, your enemies, any information that is going to make it harder for this to align in your life. Okay? The Empress came out, and I know this card speaks to a lot of like pregnancy, fertility. I'm it's To me, I'm getting fertility of purpose. Okay. And the card that came underneath it with the rainwater readings was doubt less, prosper more. To me, this is speaking about getting into movement, getting into a flow, not necessarily with water per se, but a flow within our bodies, right? Because our bodies are what, 60-70% water. Okay. So definitely drinking more water, but allowing yourself to do like yoga, stretch, go into the creative arts, do the things that you ultimately love and enjoy. And this is what's going to be fruitful. This is what's going to ultimately allow your voice and your desires to be heard, because you are no longer running from what you desire, but you're allowing yourself to align with it. And in allowing yourself to align with it, it will happen. When? Divine timing, always perfect timing. But you have to be willing to show up for yourself. You have to be willing to do the work, to put yourself out there, to put your services out there, whatever you're trying to put out there. Let it be known, right, to others. And I feel like the King of Cups is ultimately creating this energy where the Empress can come in. And you may not necessarily have the manifestation ability in the way that the Divine Masculine does, because that is their gift, their birthright by the divine, by the creator. But your gift is the magnetics. And this particular individual in your field loves you. This particular individual in your magnetics is ultimately going to allow those manifestations to come into fruition. But you need to stop worrying. You need to stop doubting. Again, doubt less, prosper more. That it can't come into fruition, because it can, in unexpected ways. When you finally decide to show up for yourself, and yes, there's obviously the stars alignments and everything that takes place in divine timing in someone's life, but it's an unexpected surprise at the time that is probably needed most. And they're saying it is. Then you have the Wheel of Fortune. So again, this is everything that I was speaking to. And on the bottom, we also have go into your heart space. This is everything that I was speaking to with the the King of Cups, holding that water. He's no longer allowing your waters to be, you know, to be treacherous, to be, in disarray, to be, a brewing a storm. You've actually made it into the safety part. You've made it into the crystal clear waters that now you can authentically be, excuse me, you can authentically be yourself. My voice is a little raspy. And in this, you will experience, you know, blessings, divine insights. It's an experience on a root chakra level that is harmonious to the life that you want to be experiencing. And in the way that that's going to ultimately unfold is by going into your heart space, by believing that what you desire is possible and that it's going to manifest in your reality. And there's something about this Wheel of Fortune card. If you actually see, it looks like there is a being carrying it to the next level, and understand this is where we're at. You're being carried, ushered in to your new reality. So align with it and understand that it's okay to have moments of doubt. It's okay to have moments where, you know, the the fear of the trauma from the past comes back, but understand that fear is only false evidence appearing real. Redirect your mind. Be aligned with what's actively in your heart, because God didn't put a vision in your heart for it not to come into fruition. God didn't put a vision into your heart for it to go unfulfilled. And it's only you that can walk away from that vision. It's only you that can sit here and say no and stop it. And yeah, it may take time. Who knows? But what you are ultimately trying to align with is something that, with much respect, it's worth the time aligning with. I'm learning patience in this time in my life as well. And it hasn't necessarily been the easiest. And I do know that we live in a system that makes it feel like you have pressures all the time. You need to, have your finances correct. You need to have everything figured out. You should be married by 25 and having kids. And no, I think it's actively tending to yourself, allowing the inner child's um, spark to shine and allowing your light to shine, understanding that the traumas that you went through, yes, they were they were traumas that could have broken many people, but it didn't break you, and you survived it, and you overcame it. And it's now time for you to sit here and say, what's the new experience that I want to be having? And now I'm going to take the actions to align with that, because this is what's calling me. This is what's calling me home. It's time for you to show up for yourself in a way that you are meant to be seen, in a way that honors you, in a way that respects you, in a way that you don't have to dim yourself, and you can be your authentic self, and you can be in that Empress energy, and you can be in that creative energy. This is where you give birth to your destiny. This is where you shine your light and you rest in your divine femininity. This is where you allow yourself to be soft, and you start to operate in life from a way of understanding that there are beings in your field, okay, who are willing and want to bring to you the reality that you desire. So stop fighting them and let it happen. This is a word to the wise and a word of the wise. It's time to align with your destiny. And it is time to understand that life was never meant to be difficult for you. It was only meant to reflect the aspects of you that are true once you learned your lessons, once you overcame your trauma, once you chose yourself, once you showed up as a divine being that God created you to be. So thank you so much for listening to this reading from me and the divine. You can go to www.mamarain.org to check out the services that are offered. Take care.